Hey, I'm Mindy Kinnis. This is the Daily Rage. Got a question from Matthew today. He says, thanks. I am a beginner and know very little about what funding entails. So, can you please explain to me in more detail exactly what each part of the attached SNP means? For example, in the context of crude oil, what does 14 or 140 micros mean? Does this mean this is how many contracts I am allowed to trade with to reach the desired target? Please explain each number on the SNP as if you were explaining it to a complete beginner who knows next to nothing. Thanks. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for the question. And yeah, I'm happy to dig into all of this about funding and what you're asking about. There's an interesting thing. There's a cognitive bias called the curse of knowledge. And what the curse of knowledge is when we ourselves know something, maybe we even know a lot about it, maybe it's an expertise of ours, and we kind of just assume that everybody else knows it as well, but that's often not the case. So, some of us who have been doing this funding thing for a while now, we just talk about it as if it all makes sense. But when you're brand new to trading, you may not know. So, let's dig into it. What he's talking about is this. So, with Apex Trader funding, let's use the 100K full account as an example because he's referring to 14 and 140. So that matches up to this one. And yes, Matthew, you're exactly correct in that you can trade 14 biggies, as I call them. That would be the mini contracts or the regular crude oil. So CL would be you could trade up to 14 of those. Or MCL, which is micro crude oil, you could trade up to 140 micros. Now, let me just state something here for the record. I don't recommend you trade that many micros when you could just bump it up in terms of how many biggies you're trading. Here's why. Oftentimes, especially when you're getting to higher and higher quantities, you're going to end up paying a lot more in commission to trade that many micros versus this many biggies. So it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of the math. But according to Apex, this was something that people had asked for often. It didn't used to be this many micros, they used to be much less, but people wanted a 10x. So they said, okay, here you go. Perfect. So that is what that means. Then, with this size account, your profit goal would be $6,000. In other words, you would start the account at $100,000 and you would have to work your way up eventually. This is not a daily goal, this is not a weekly goal or a monthly goal. It's just an overall profit goal. So, however long that takes you, it doesn't matter. There's not a maximum amount of time. You can just stay in this until you get there. You would need to get to $106,000 to have hit this 6,000 profit goal. Trailing threshold, now that's a whole other game. And I'll link you at the end of this video to my mini series on that about how to work with this thing. But basically, here's the trick. You can't think of it like $100,000 account because if you had $100,000 in a regular account, not a funded account, but your own account, you would trade it very, very differently. In this case, you have to think of this account as only a $3,000 account. Why? Because that's how much you have to lose. You don't have $100,000, you have $3,000. And to be clear, it's all fake money anyway. So, like, don't worry about it. But in terms of the math, you have $3,000 with which to play and to trade. So, there is no daily drawdown. There's no scaling. What is included in your monthly fee is a $75 value NinjaTrader license and real-time data fees, which is a $55 value. Now, this is not the actual price. It does say $207 per month, but right now for the whole month of May, and we just had the whole month of April, it was 80% off. So you're only going to be paying 20% of this cost. Now, like I mentioned, there is no maximum amount of time. They're not going to like cancel you out after a month if you don't hit that $6,000 profit goal. But you are on a monthly subscription. So each month, it's going to bill you again for 80% off. It's 80% off recurring. So as long as you lock in that price, you're good to go. Now, for someone like you, Matthew, I would recommend not starting with 100K. I would start, if I were you, with a 25K. This is the smallest one that they offer. It's a $25,000 account. You can trade 4 biggies or 40 micros. Your profit goal is only 1,500. So that is way, way, way more doable in the beginning than trying to go for like 6,000 over time. And really, like when you're starting, you shouldn't be trading 4 minis anyway, at least not according to my theory of teaching trading. So in this case, you'd have a profit goal of 1,500. Your trailing threshold is also 1,500. So again, you'd want to think of this account as a $1,500 account, not 25,000, because that's kind of just a joke. You don't actually have that much funding to play with. So Matthew, thanks again for your question. I hope that helps. I'm Mindy Kniss. Thanks so much for watching.